Well, Jays fans, we're headed into the most important part of the season. It's the final set of home games. It's the final set of games out on the road. I'm here with Rob Longley to break it all down. But first, we're going to start off with the fireworks between the Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays that happened this week out in the road down in Tampa. Rob, I got to ask you, Kevin Kiermaier, everyone saw the footage on TV. He picks up Alejandro's game card. That's got the plan for how the Toronto Blue Jays are going to pitch to the Tampa Bay Rays. Kevin Kiermaier takes the card back to the Rays bench. He hands it to one of the coaches. Was Kevin Kiermaier right for taking the card? Should he have given it back to the Jays?
Of course he should have given it back. It was ridiculous. He was like a kid in a candy store. This piece of paper lying on the ground in front of him. He knew exactly what it was. He claimed later that he thought it might have been his own card, but he knew exactly what it was. He looked sheepishly to his left. He looked sheepishly to his right, picked it up, returned it to the dugout and handed it to a coach, and then claimed that he did nothing wrong later on. It was interesting though, Mark, afterwards, we could tell that he knew he was guilty, because when asked about it, he said, well, it's September. Of course I'm not going to give it back. So that right there tells us that he was in the wrong. I mean, I understand that teams are looking for a competitive advantage at any point of the year, especially in September, especially when there's a playoff race on. But come on, man, that was a bad move, and it really created to the rest of the bad blood that we saw throughout the series.
Okay, Rob, so let me fast forward. Game 3, Ryan Borucki. The game's out of hand. The Jays are going to clearly lose. Borucki hits Kevin Kiermaier. Was he right to do that?
An emphatic yes, just like my yes to your other question. Of course he was. That's baseball. I mean, he wasn't trying to hurt him. He hit him in the back with a soft fastball. And if Kevin Kiermaier claims that he didn't know that was coming, he would have been the only person in the entire state of Florida, never mind in the Tropicana field in St. Petersburg. Of course he knew it was coming. It was a 7-1 ball game. It was the 8th inning. It was his last at bat. He knew he did something wrong. Everybody in baseball knew he did something wrong. There was 100% guarantee he was going to get hit. So for him to feign surprise afterwards, claiming that the Jays had said it was water under the bridge, or agua under the bridge, as manager Charlie Montoyo put it the day before, that's just a bunch of bunk. He knew exactly what was going to happen. And if the shoe was on the other foot, it would have been the same way.
Rob, what do you expect to see from the Toronto Blue Jays over their final stretch of games?
Well, first off, Mark, it's probably going to be one of the most exciting stretches of baseball we've seen around here to end a season in a long, long time. Essentially 10 games that are going to decide whether they're going to advance to the American League wildcard spot. They put themselves in a great position to do it, but they still have to win 6 or 7 games to get there. And I think, all of us are really looking forward to 3 games at the Rogers Center in downtown Toronto next week against the New York Yankees. And in all likelihood, that's going to decide one of those spots for one of those teams. 3 teams in a fight: Boston, New York, and Toronto. 2 teams advance, each with 10 games remaining. You really couldn't ask for much more in baseball at the end of September.
Okay, Rob, break down the rotation for the Toronto Blue Jays, because right now they're going to be a little creative with some of their starting pitchers, including Robbie Ray and Alek Manoah. How do you see that playing out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, Mark, this has been a real strength of the team since mid-August, really, and probably the starting rotation has been, besides the offense, what has taken them to the cusp of making it to the playoffs. But there's been a little bit of a stutter step along the way now, with Hyunjin Ryu having a couple of bad outings, and since going on the injured list. So they're going to have to be a little bit creative over the final 10 games in how they go about it. The one thing we do know is that Robbie Ray is going to pitch the 3rd and final game against the Yankees, which is probably going to be a very pivotal game. And he's also set up to pitch the wild card game should the Blue Jays advance. But they're also going to need some strong performances from Steven Matz, who's been pretty good lately, a bit of a surprise that way. And big Alek Manoah, the workhorse of that rotation, the rookie who has had such a strong year. He's going to have to continue that kind of performance down the stretch for them to advance to the playoffs. But for what has been a source of stability for most of the late summer, there's a little bit of a question mark in it now with Ryu on the injured list, because what they've had to do was go to sort of a bullpen day where they used 4 or 5 different pitchers, and that didn't work out so well earlier this week when Ross Stripling struggled mightily against the Rays. But there is enough depth there, and if they get those workhorses to get them through the bulk of those games, they should be in a pretty good position.
Okay, Rob, before I let you go, how do you see this playing out for the Toronto Blue Jays? Are they going to be outsiders looking in, or are they going to make it into that wild card game?
Well, if I had to put my hard-earned post-media cash on it right now, Mark, I'd probably put money on them making it, and I base that essentially on the fact that they have an easier schedule than the other two teams. 4 against Minnesota, which they should fare well against, and 3 to end the season against the lowly Baltimore Orioles. But as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be those 3 games in Toronto against the Yankees that are going to go a long, long way to deciding it. And if they can take 2 of 3 in that, I think we'll see them in the postseason.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rob. You can read more of Rob's words in the pages of the Toronto Sun and the National Post. Let us know what you think down below and subscribe to our YouTube channel.